Everyone, grab your Glencairn glasses because we need to talk about why. Scotland basically owns the whiskey game. I'm talking about a $34.7 billion industry that's shipping 44 bottles per second around the world. And here's the crazy part. It all started with some monks who were just trying to use up rain-soaked barley. By the end of this video, you'll understand why people will literally pay thousands of dollars for a single bottle of this liquid gold. So I went down the deepest rabbit hole, researching Scotch whiskey, and honestly, I'm obsessed. We're talking about something that's been perfected over 500 years, involves actual alchemy, and has medical studies backing up why people are so passionate about it. Plus, the drama, the history of Scottish whiskey, reads like a Netflix series, monks, rebellions, taxes, and enough intrigue to keep you binge-watching for hours. Let's dive into why Scotland's whiskey is considered the gold standard worldwide. First, let's talk numbers because they're absolutely wild. The global Scotch whiskey market was worth $34.7 billion in 2024 and is projected to hit $57.1 billion by 2032. That's not just growth, that's explosive demand. Here's what really gets me. Scotland exports 1.4 billion bottles annually. That's literally 44 bottles, every single second being shipped to every corner of the world. The Scotch Whisky Association reported 5.4 billion in global exports in 2024 alone. We're talking about serious economic power here. And the regional consumption patterns? Fascinating. The US is the biggest market, but China is where things get interesting. It's become a status symbol there, with people willing to pay premium prices. Single malt consumption rose 16% last year, while blends went up 9%. The luxury market is absolutely thriving. What's crazy is that as of May 2024, there were 151 active whiskey distilleries in Scotland. That's 151 places creating liquid magic, each with their own unique character and story. Europe holds 37.3% of the market share, valued at $7.2 billion, but emerging markets like India and Brazil are changing the game completely. Okay, so here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating. Picture this, it's the 4th and 5th centuries, and Christian monks are arriving in Scotland. They're bringing Christianity, but plot twist, they're also bringing distillation knowledge. The art of making whiskey literally began as a practical solution. They had all this rain-soaked barley, because let's be real, it's Scotland, and they needed to use it up. So they started distilling it, using water from Scotland's natural streams and burns. Genius, right? The first written mention of Scotch whiskey appears in the Exchequer Rolls of Scotland in 1494. That's over 500 years of documented whiskey making. Originally, all Scotch was made from malted barley, but by the late 18th century, commercial distilleries started introducing wheat and rye. But here's the thing, this wasn't just about making alcohol. The name whiskey comes from the Gaelic whisky-curious, which literally means water of life. The monks weren't just making a drink, they believed they were creating something sacred, something that could heal and sustain life. For centuries, whiskey provided vital income to poor, rural communities across Scotland. It was often made illegally to avoid taxes, which adds this whole rebellious outlaw element to its history. Imagine Scottish Highlanders secretly distilling liquid gold in hidden mountain stills. Now let's talk about what makes Scottish whiskey so incredibly special. Because it's literally like alchemy. You start with just 3 basic ingredients: water, malted barley, and yeast. That's it. But the magic happens in how these 3 simple elements are transformed. First, the water. Scotland's water is different. It flows through ancient rock formations, picking up unique mineral compositions that you literally cannot replicate anywhere else in the world. Each distillery has its own water source, which is why every whiskey tastes different. The malted barley process is where science meets art. The barley is soaked, allowed to germinate, then dried, often with peat smoke, which gives that distinctive smoky flavor that whiskey lovers obsess over. The peat comes from ancient compressed plant matter that's been sitting in Scottish bogs for thousands of years. You're literally tasting history. Then comes the distillation, and this is where each distillery becomes an artist. The shape of the copper stills, the temperature, the timing, everything affects the final product. Scotch whiskey must be distilled and matured in Scotland, in oak casks for at least 3 years by law. But most premium whiskeys age much longer. Here's what blows my mind. During aging, the whiskey is constantly interacting with the wood, extracting flavors, colors, and compounds that create complexity. The Scottish climate, with its temperature fluctuations and humidity, creates this perfect environment where the whiskey literally breathes through the oak, concentrating and developing character over decades. The result? A spirit so complex that each sip can contain hundreds of different flavor compounds. We're talking vanilla from the oak smoke, from the peat, honey from the barley, and mineral notes from the water, all harmoniously balanced. What really sets Scottish whiskey apart is the culture and craftsmanship that surrounds it. This isn't just an industry, it's a way of life that's been passed down through generations. Each of Scotland's whiskey regions produces distinctly different styles. The Highlands give you bold, complex flavors. Speyside is elegant and refined. Islay is all about that intense peat smoke. Lowlands produce lighter, more approachable whiskies. Campbelltown offers maritime influences. Each region's geography, climate, and traditions create unique flavor profiles. The master distillers and blenders are like artists. They're creating flavor experiences that can evoke memories, emotions, and sensations. A single malt whiskey can tell the story of its specific location, the weather during its aging years, even the type of wood used in the barrels. The ritual around whiskey consumption is part of its appeal too. The proper glassware, the color examination, the nosing process where you appreciate the aromas, the careful tasting, it's mindfulness in liquid form. People spend years developing their palates, learning to identify subtle notes and appreciate complexity. What's beautiful is how whiskey brings people together. Whether it's a casual evening with friends or a formal tasting, sharing whiskey creates connection. There's something about sipping a drink that took decades to create that slows you down and makes you appreciate the moment, the way different cultures have embraced. Scottish whiskey tells an incredible story about globalization and appreciation for craftsmanship. Social media has also transformed whiskey culture. Instagram is full of whiskey, photography, tasting notes, and collection showcases. YouTube has entire communities dedicated to whiskey reviews and education. People are more curious and informed about what they're drinking than ever before. The investment aspect is wild too. Rare bottles of Scottish whiskey are selling at auction for hundreds of thousands of dollars. A bottle of Macallan Fine and Rare Collection sold for over $2 million. We're talking about liquid assets that appreciate better than some stock portfolios. Looking ahead, Scottish whiskey isn't just maintaining its position, it's expanding it. The industry is innovating while respecting tradition. We're seeing experimental cask finishes, sustainable production methods, and new expressions that push boundaries while honoring the craft. The premium and ultra-premium segments are exploding. People aren't just buying whiskey to drink. They're buying it as an experience, as art, as investment. Limited releases sell out in minutes, and waiting lists for exclusive bottles can be years long. New markets are emerging constantly. Countries that never had whiskey culture are developing sophisticated palates and demanding quality Scottish products. The global market is expected to reach $71 billion by 2028, with emerging markets driving much of that growth. What's exciting is that despite modernization, the core of Scottish whiskey remains unchanged. Those three simple ingredients, traditional methods, and the patience to let time work its magic. What's your relationship with whiskey? Are you team single, malt, or team blend? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing about everyone's whiskey journeys. And if this deep dive changed how you see Scottish whiskey, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. That'll make you the most interesting person at any dinner party. Slaint everyone, here's to liquid history.